Well, hello and welcome to my show. It's been a while since I did a video, but um, it's been exam season and I thought I would have a break during that. I had a lot of lessons to do in the build up to people taking their A levels, and now I've got a bit more time on my hands, and I only now have students who are in their first year of A levels to teach. So time on my hands. I need more custom, but there we are. It is summer and it is really hot, so I apologise if you can hear the fan. It's the hottest day of the year so far. One of the things I like to do in the summer months when things get a little bit quieter for me is to think about how I can increase my own knowledge of politics. As I've no doubt said before, I've spent most of my life either studying politics or working in government, or engaged in politics in one way or another. So my knowledge is high, but there are plenty of books I've not read in the world. So I decided I would. Last week I decided to read, or rather listen to, an audiobook of The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilman, one of the key thinkers of feminism. Now, don't worry if you're not doing feminism, I've still got some important things to say here about reading political books, because what it does is it really enhances your understanding of politics. Now, you could read a biography of a prime minister, perhaps, or you could read about a particular political scandal, perhaps. You will pick up something that is relevant to A-level government and politics. You might want to take a look at American politics if you're doing that, or if you're doing global, maybe there's plenty going on in the world right now that you could get stuck into in terms of reading. But I decided that it would be a good idea to read some of the works of key thinkers that crop up in the specification. A lot of the key thinkers I read decades ago. When I was at university, I had to go through particularly the liberal key thinkers, nearly all of them. Everybody apart from Betty Friedan, I was expected to read actual works. John Locke, John Stuart Mill. Read both of those. Read John Rawls. And Mary Wollstonecraft. Mary Wollstonecraft, Vindication of the Rights of Woman. I listened to the audiobook of that fairly recently. So I've read quite a lot of the key thinkers. I've read the Communist Manifesto by Marx and Engels. So yeah, I've got a fairly good grounding, but you can never stop learning. It's impossible to know it all, and so I thought I'd give The Yellow Wallpaper a go. And if you are doing feminism, I'd highly recommend that book. If you're not doing feminism, I would highly recommend that book. The Yellow Wallpaper is a short story. It took about 46 minutes, I think, as an audiobook. So I deliberately chose a walk that I would be able to do in about 45 minutes or so. And it was quite an interesting way of consuming this piece of work, because of course it is, if you don't know, it's a book about a woman who is effectively locked up in a room by her husband, or hidden away by her husband, and all she's got is this room with this yellow wallpaper that she begins to describe in intricate detail. And I was out in the countryside having a nice walk, so it was an interesting contrast to hear this really, the prose was just so good. The descriptions in this book were fantastic. really drew you into this world. Amazing world building is what we would call it nowadays, I think. I really enjoyed it, and a truly shocking ending, which I think you can interpret in all sorts of different ways. I will not talk about the ending because I wouldn't want to spoil it, but it's a cracking book, very thought-provoking, almost like a kind of ghost story in some ways. It will, or certainly like a kind of mild horror story, and really interesting. So I would highly recommend that, and particularly if you are hoping to do some kind of political subject at university, it is a really good idea to do some reading of political texts, something that you can maybe talk about if you've got like a personal statement to do, or you're going to have some kind of interview at some stage, to show that you aren't just interested in politics, that you've actually taken the initiative to go a bit deeper. That is really helpful and impressive, and something that will stay with you, particularly like if you end up going to university and then you end up doing a master's degree on top of that. It would be a good way of impressing people that you've gone out of your way to look at texts which you've got something from. That shows a commitment to the subject, and it particularly if you've got some interesting views about the book that you've read as well, that can be incredibly helpful. And on top of that, it adds to your knowledge anyway, so it's all good. So I would recommend doing that over the summer. I would recommend picking a book. My preference is for a fairly short one. Some of these key thinkers were writing hundreds of years ago, and they were writing complex things in a complex old-fashioned language, or an old-fashioned way of using our language. So not all of them are. I don't find any of them easy, and it's also interesting that what you've got with Perkins Gilman is a short story. So you've got fiction, but based on real lived experience, and that is an interesting way of thinking about politics as well. There is lots of fictional things which are worthwhile looking into as well. So there we go. Political philosophy doesn't have to be boring. It can be a short story that can gain you some insight into what a particular political idea is all about. And Perkins Gilman is a particularly interesting writer, I think. I'm going to end up reading some more of her work and seeing where that takes me, because that's the other thing about reading, it leads you on to other things as well. That's my recommendation. When things settle down in the summer and you want a break from studying, do some more studying, but nice studying. Pick something that is interesting to you and do some reading that no one's expecting you to do. All right, happy studying. Bye-bye.